Hi, good day, a pleasure day to everyone, and especially to Doc Rico. And I am Jel Paulo Garcia of MBA 1B. And here's my report in economics for managers, chapter 3, which entitled Elasticity. And before we get started to our topic, I have here the list of words that describes elastic and in English term. So I've collected words, which is first word is stretch or stretchable, expand or expandable, flex or flexible, bouncy or spring. I just wanted you to notice that the word elastic in English and in economics has the same concepts. So here's our topic. What is elastic? So uh, elastic is a term used in economics to describe a change in the behavior of the buyers and the sellers in response to a single variable, such like a change in price or other variables for good or services. So, ayun, gusto ko ipapasa sa inyo yung word na change in the behavior. So, kaninong behavior daw ang nag-change? So, again, the behavior of buyers and sellers. So, bakit daw nag-iiba ang behavior nila buyers and sellers? Kasi in response to a single variable. So, I just want you to notice here, kanina pa siya naka-underline because single variable kasi mamaya we were tackle about different kind of variables in elasticity, okay? And so again, change ng behavior ni buyers and sellers because nagbago kunwari si price. Si price muna gamitin natin example sa single variables, okay? Dagdag ko lang, uh, in elasticity, there's only two relationship of two. So, paano ko nasabi yung relationship of two? Relationship lang siya between si supply or other variables such as price, for example, or si demand and price. So, a relationship between two lang siya. So, mamaya we will tackle about that, okay? So in the next slide, I have here the basic illustration on how we determine who is more elastic. So we have here two rubber bands, the yellow rubber bands and the purple one. So parehas natin siyang lalagyan ng same amount of weight, which is 10 kilograms. So dito pa lang makikita na natin sa illustration kung sino yung more elastic. So again, more elastic is stretchable and um, flexible with the definition, with a simple definition in English. So makita natin dito na ang more elastic is si yellow rubber band. So here in the next slide, we have here the law of supply and demand. In our last meeting, we studied about the law of supply and the law of demand. So thank you. By the way, thank you, Ms. Jovi, for the wonderful report. And here we will tackle about the law of supply and demand together. Kumbaga magkasama na sila. Ito yung pinaka regular or pinaka basic na law ng supply and demand na alam nating karamihan sa atin. So as far as I remember, yan, yun nga, yung kay Miss Jovi kasi is law of supply na bukod and law of demand. So here, combined na sila, law of supply and demand. So how this law works. So the law of supply and demand is the theory that prices are determined by the relationship between supply and demand. So sa relasyon daw ni supply and demand, nade-determine kung paano ang magiging action ni price. So here, the law of supply and demand states that if a product has a high demand and low supply, so here, high demand and low supply, the price will increase. Tama. And conversely, if there is a low demand here and high supply here, the price will decrease there. So here, the best example here is um, face mask. Itong face mask na to, yan. So, dati 'di ba nung kasagsagan ng pandemic, way back 2020, naalala nyo ba na sobrang daming demand nito ni face mask, which is sa sobrang daming demand niya, pumalo siya ng, naalala nyo ba yung price niya, pumalo ng 100 or 150 pa nga nun sa pagkakatanda ko. So, ayan, ganito yung pinaka-perfect example itong si face mask. Since dumami yung demand niya ng 2020, nung nakasagsagan ng pandemic, anong nangyari? Bumaba ang supply. So, kumonti ang supply natin. Kaya ano nangyari? Tumaas ang presyo. Ganun din nung ngayong medyo maluwag na tayo sa mga restriction natin, although may pandemic pa rin. Anong nangyari sa demand ng tao dito kay face mask? Bumaba. So lumiit ang demand ng mga tao kay face mask. So ang tendency is dadami ang supply, mag-oversupply tayo or something like that. Pag dumami ang supply at bumaba ang demand, ang mangyayari sa price is bababa. So here, bakit ko sinama itong law of supply and demand? Ang pinagkaiba nila sa elasticity is, as you've noticed, this is a relationship of 3. So kasama lagi si supply and demand, magkasama lagi sila. So si price, ang nagiging epekto nito is based on the relationship between supply and demand. But here in elasticity, the effect of supply and demand is based on price or some single variables that we will tackle early on. So, ano ulit ang sabi ko kanina? Definition of elasticity is described in a change in the behavior of the buyers and the sellers in response to a single variable in price. So, ito nga siya, si demand or si supply is nagva-vary sa change nila. Nakadepende sila sa price or some or other single variable. So the next slide is, there are 2 types of products or services. First is the elastic products. The second one is inelastic products. So we need to understand first how important to know these two and how it is affect the elasticity. So first, here is the elastic products. Example of elastic commodities includes products like vehicles, appliances, and luxury goods that are purchased infrequently. Consumers may choose to postpone purchasing if the price of these goods is temporarily high. So for example is car. So car, for example, kunyari, bibili ka ng Wigo na car. So ngayong taon, tumaas siya, kunyari, for example, ng plus 100,000. For example, ang price niya last year is 700,000 and then ngayon is 800,000. So ikaw, kung hindi naman ganun karami yung pera mo or nag-ipon ka lang talaga para sa price ng 700,000, syempre, pwede mo siyang i-postpone. Pwede mo siyang actually postpone or ipagpaliban muna for the next year na para bilhin siya na the same product or the same unit ng Wigo. So ang mangyayari, yung price niya tumaas, ang mangyayari sa demand niya is bababa. So anong mangyayari sa supply? So supply, madadagdagan na lang siya, madadagdagan kasi the producer continue to produce vehicles. Ito, nilagay ko na yung pinakamagandang definition ng elastic products. So, elastic product is with acceptable substitute. So, ano nga ba yung mga with acceptable substitute? Ito yung mga example lang. Ito yung 3 example lang. Soft drinks, clothing, electronics. So, soft drinks, for example, Pwede ka namang magtubig or mag-juice kung mas mura yun, di ba? Ah, yung sa clothing naman, instead na mga Louis Vuitton yung mga bilin mo, pwede naman mga bench or for something like that. Or sa electronics, kung hindi naman yung masyadong kailangan, or kung hindi naman, kung kaya mo naman, kung hindi talaga kaya bumili ng, for example, iPhone or Samsung, pwede ka naman mga Huawei or Vivo or something like that. And here, the next slide is inelastic products. Inelastic products are usually necessities without acceptable substitute. The most common goods with inelastic demands are utilities, prescription drugs, and tobacco products. Businesses offering such products maintain greater flexibility with prices because demand remains constant, even if the price increase or decrease. So, here kita nyo naman yung word na without acceptable substitute. So ano-ano nga ba yung mga example ng without acceptable substitute or ng inelastic products? Here the example is gas, electricity, rice, sugar, salt, etc. Ito pa nga yung mga nabanggit kanina with prescription drugs, tobacco, and here, for example, uh, si gas, ano pa bang mga alternative natin na pwedeng ipalit kay gas, di ba? So wala naman tayong ibang pwedeng ipalit sa kanya. Kunyari sa kotse natin, hindi naman natin pwedeng ah, lagyan ng lagyan ah, ng ibang uri ng gas yung sasakyan natin. For example, ano siya, unleaded or diesel type siya. Hindi naman natin siya pwedeng lagyan ng gas type, di ba? Kasi masisira yung sasakyan natin. For example, itong sa electricity, ano pa bang mga pwede nating acceptable substitute dito? Well, pwede siguro yung solar, pero masyadong matagal pa natin i-install or mas mahal pa natin mag-i-invest tayo ng mas mahal para lang mayroon tayong acceptable substitute sa electricity. There are rice and sugar, salts, and etc. So next slide here is the types of elasticity and their variables. So here, as you can see, there are two types of elasticity. First, the elasticity of demand, and the second one is elasticity of supply. So, di ba, meaning ng elasticity is change in the behavior of the buyers and sellers in response to a change in their variables. So ito na ang kanilang mga variables. Ang example natin kanina ng isang variable is si price. So sa elasticity of demand, meron pa siyang tatlo pa bukod sa price. So si income, si cross, and si advertising. And si elasticity, meron pa siyang isa pa bukod kay price, which is si cross. So we will tackle about that. We will discuss about that one by one later. And here, in the next slide, we will talk about first the price elasticity of demand. So price elasticity of demand. Here, balikan natin yung last slide. Ito siya, si price elasticity of demand. So next na itatakal natin is income elasticity of demand, cross elasticity of demand, advertising elasticity of demand, price elasticity of supply, and cross elasticity of supply. And here first, the price elasticity of demand. The elasticity of demand or demand elasticity measures how demand responds to a change in price. It is commonly referred to a price elasticity of a demand because the price of a goods or services is the most common economic factor used to measure it. So here's the formula on price elasticity of demand. The elasticity of demand is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. So paano siya mathematically formula? Here's the formula. ED or elasticity of demand, or in some books or in some site, we can use PED. the PED here. The PED is equal to percentage change in here, the triangle shape here. In math, it is delta. It is called delta. This is the exact translation in math of the word changed in. So change in. Tandaan niyo po itong delta na to, siya ay, ang kahulugan ay changed in. So again, percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage changed in price. So next slide is the 5 main types of PED, or price elasticity and demand. And here, first is perfectly inelastic. Second one is relatively inelastic. Third one is unit elastic. Fourth one is relatively elastic. And the fifth one is perfectly elastic. So, makita nyo naman sa graph kung ano yung mga pagkakaiba nila, di ba? Yung perfectly inelastic, so perfectly horizontal siya, di ba? Ito medyo pumaling ng konti, and the unit elastic, which is the third one, is about 45 degrees angle, and here the relatively elastic is medyo humihiga na siya, and the perfectly elastic is perfectly vertical na siya. So here the first one is equal to 0. Makikita agad natin yung sagot either dito sa graph. Makikita agad natin kung ano siya sa 5 types ng price elasticity of demand, either sa graph or sa answer natin itself. So si perfectly inelastic is equal to 0. Relatively inelastic is less than 1. Unit elastic is equal to 1. Relative elastic is greater than 1, and perfectly elastic is what do you call this? What do you call this? Yun, sorry. Sorry for the interruption. This is called, kung malalaman natin isa sa perfectly elastic is infinite ang kanyang sagot. So here is the formula to get the price elasticity of demand. So price elasticity of demand formula is ED, or elasticity of demand, or PED if you want to use PED. And here is equals to percentage changed in the quantity demanded over percentage change in price. So as you've noticed here, there are 2 types of sub formula, which is the first one is A is percentage change in quantity here. So ito ang formula niya, Q2 minus Q1 over the midpoint of Q2 plus Q1. And here is the second sub formula is percentage change in price is P2 minus P1 over the midpoint P2 plus P1. Would you say the midpoint is just like the para siyang, kumbaga, dinivide mo lang siya sa 2, ganun lang siya. So gitna siya, para siyang average, yon yung pinaka-average niya. So here the formula is ED is equals to Q2 minus Q1 here over the midpoint of Q2 plus Q1 over P2 minus P1 the midpoint of P2 plus P1. So ito siya, nilagay mo siya dito, and here nilagay mo siya dito. So ganito magiging itsura niya. So i-simplify natin siya. Here, paano i-simplify ang formula? So when dividing fractions, we have rules in math, which is the 3 rules in math pag magdi-divide tayo ng fractions, which is keep, change, and flip. So first, keep keep the first fraction. So ito, mananatili lang siya dyan. So yan lang siya, hindi wala tayong gagawin sa kanya. And then the second one is change the operation. So maglagay tayo for example na multiply here or here, yes, here. And the second one is flip the second fraction. So kailangan natin ma-cancel to. So how do we get to cancel this here? Ibabaligtad muna natin siya. Gayahin natin to para ma-cancel. Flip natin to reciprocate. Get the reciprocate is P2 plus P1 divided by 2 over P2 plus minus P1 here minus P1. So same natin siyang i-multiply dito. So ito maka-cancel na siya. And then here same natin, ilagay natin sa taas P2 plus P1 divided by 2 over P2 minus P1. So cancel here and cancel here. So ang matitira nating formula is ito. So ayan. Ito na siya. Ito na yung kalalabasan nating formula. C ED is equals to Q2 minus Q1. Ibig sabihin ng Q nga pala, Q to Q1 or P to P1, quantity, second quantity, first quantity, then ito, second price minus first price. Yung, di ba, may change nga tayo, kukunin nga natin yung percentage ng change, di ba? So, kailangan natin ng first saka second quantity and first saka second price. So, ito na maging formula niya. And then here, we're going to take the absolute value of this. And ano nga ba yung absolute value? Ito yung absolute value niya. Itong guhit na to. Yan, itong linya na to. Pag kinuha natin yung absolute value, makakancel na tong midpoint na tinatawag. Kasi yung absolute value kasi is the non-negative value of x without regard to its signs. So hindi regardless kung positive or negative siya, basta kung ilan yung minove niya or kung ilan yung kung ilan yung minove niya from its original value. So tandaan natin, we only have to pay attention to the magnitude on how much did the change. So here, for example, rice change from 50 to 55, and the quantity of demand change from 80 persons to 76 persons. So here, ang rice natin, for example, ang first price niya is 50 pesos, naging 55. So yung 50 pesos ng price, ang bumibili is 18 na person. And then nung nagmahal siya, sana all, nung nagmahal siya, naging 55 pesos is 76 persons na bumibili. So nabawasan ng 4 na tao yung bumibili. So here's the graph. As you can see, first price niya is 50 pesos here, the green line. And 80 persons yung bumibili. Here, 80 persons. Price, quantity demanded. And then the second price is 55, which is the yellow line. And ang bumibili na lang is 76. So sa graph, pag i-graph natin siya, nakikita nyo siya, medyo mas lamang siya sa 45 degree, di ba? Kasi itong blue na to, yung 45 degree. So medyo patay ko na siya. So yan. Elasticity of demand is always negative. So we typically drop the negative sign and use absolute value instead. So yun nga, yung kagaya na nasabi ko kanina, we're not talking about positive or negative kasi negative naman siya palagi. So kukunin natin yung absolute value which is yung gravity ng paggalaw niya. So, how to solve? Paano natin si-solve yun? So, si ED. ED is equal, ito na yung pinaka-simplified final formula natin. ED is equal to absolute value of Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 times P2 plus P1 minus P2 over P2 minus P1. So the Q2 is 76 and the quantity demanded 1 is 80 over 76 plus 80 times 55 plus 50 minus 55 times 50. So here's the answer here. Negative 4 over 156 times 105 over 5. So we multiply this, we cross multiply this equation. So the answer is here. 420. No, i-multiply lang pala natin siya, hindi pala cross multiplication gagayan. Yan pala pag multiply ng fraction. So 4 times 105 is 420 and retain the negative sign, and 156 times 5 is 780, and we divide this is 420 divide 780 is equal to 0.5. So negative sign here. So since nasa loob siya ng absolute value, regardless natin yung negative sign na yan. So doon nga tayo sa gravity ng paggalaw niya, kung gaano karami or kakonti siya gumalaw. So ED is equal to elasticity of demand is equal to 0.5. So we're going to elasticity of supply. The elasticity of supply measures how much the quantity supplied of a good or services change when there is a price change. So halos same naman din sila talaga ng formula. Ang pinakaiba lang, elasticity of supply kasi ito price elasticity of supply. Yung kanina kasi elasticity of demand, PED, ito PES. So percentage change in the quantity supplied, which is kanina quantity demanded ng tao, ito supplied, and over percentage change in price. So formula niya same din talaga halos. So ES or PES is equals to percentage change in quantity supplied over percentage change in price. So dito naman tayo sa PES. There are 5 main types of PES and how it looks like. So here, perfectly inelastic, unitary, elastic, and perfectly elastic. So the first one is 0. The second one is less than 1. The unitary elastic is equal to 1. The elastic is more than 1. And the perfectly elastic is, here we go again, the infinite. Yes. And here again, the sample again is rice. For example, the price changed is 55 to 50, 50 to 55, I'm sorry. And the quantity supplied changed from 50 sacks to 60 sacks. So makita natin dito sa graph is here, from 50 pesos to, nung 50 pesos siya, 50 sacks ang nasusupply, which is ito. So ito siya. And then the second one is, nung 55 pesos siya, ang nasusupply na is 60 sacks. So ito, so pareha siyang tumaas. So as we can see on the graph here, medyo nakapahiga na rin siya. So itong block na to yung ano natin kanina, yung PED or price elasticity on demand, of demand, I'm sorry. And then how to solve PES. Excuse me. And here's the given. P1 is equals to 50, P2 is 55, Q1 50, Q2 60. So here's the same formula, the same simplified formula, pinalitan lang natin siya ng S. So PES, elasticity of supply. And here's the formula, ES is equals to absolute value of Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 multiplied by P2 plus P1 over P2 minus P1. So here, just the sample, ipalitan lang natin yung mga given. Dito sa hinihingi, Q2, ito sa Q2 60 minus 50 plus 60 plus 50 times P2 55 plus P1 50. So 55 minus P1. And here, the answer, if we try to solve this one by one. So here, kinuha natin siya yung LCD, simplified natin, palitin natin, and then after we simplified or we get the LCD, we tried to multiply it. So makukuha natin ito here, and then 1 times 21, 21, 11 times 1 is 11. So 21 over 11, absolute value of 21 over 11. And the final answer is absolute value of 1.9, or equals to elasticity of supply is 1.9. So here, the next slide is income elasticity of demand, or YED. So yeah, just remember, income is equals to Y. So here, the income elasticity of demand, or YED, is the responsiveness of the quantity demanded for a good to a change in cost in consumers' income, the real income. It is measured as the ratio of the percentage change in the quantity demanded to the percentage change in income. So as you've noticed here, the root word is responsiveness of the quantity demanded. Ano daw yung quantity demanded for what? For a good. So ano nga ba yung mga good na yan? The next slide here is types of goods. The first one is normal. The second one is inferior. The third one is luxury. First, we're going to normal goods. Here, normal goods is income elasticity of demand more than zero. So pag more than zero ang sagot, siya ay normal goods. So here, a normal good or necessary good doesn't refer to the quality of the good, but rather the level of demand for the good and its relationship to the increases or decreases of the consumer's income level. So demand for normal goods is determined by patterns of consumers' behavior, and as income level rise, the consumers can often afford goods that were not previously available to them. Example of normal goods includes food, clothing, entertainment, transportation, electronics, home appliances. So si normal goods daw is yung mga since tumaas yung sahod natin, kaya na nating ma-afford yung mga bagay na hindi natin na-afford nung wala pa tayo, kunyari, for example, sahod or mababa pa yung sahod natin. For example, si food dyan, medyo yung iba nakapag-sangyup na or what, or nakapag-restaurant na or fast food, something like that. So iba, clothing, nabibili na yung mga gustong damit. Yan, yung normal goods natin matatawag siya. Yan, so pag nag-increase si income, mag-i-increase din yung demand ni normal goods. So again, here, pag nag-increase income, mag-increase si demand ng normal goods. So example is transportation. Here, the example. Itong taxi, kaya taxi yung nakalagay sa transportation. For example, bagong sahod ka naman or medyo na-promote ka naman sa company nyo. Tapos, nagmamadali ka, for example, tapos alangan namang may nahihirapan kang sumakay sa mga public utility vehicle like jeep or bus. So since nag-level up naman yung nag-increase naman yung yung income mo. So you now you can afford to ride in a taxi. So something like that. Just that's the one example of normal goods. So here the inferior goods. Income elasticity of demand is less than zero. So pag less than zero ang sagot, inferior goods siya. Ano nga ba ang inferior goods? An inferior goods is an economic term that describes a goods whose demand drops when people's incomes rise. These goods fall out of favor as income and the economy improves as consumers begin buying more costly substitute instead. So yan. An inferior good is one whose demand drops when people's incomes rise, as they mentioned earlier, and when incomes are low or the economy contracts, inferior goods become more affordable substitute for a more expensive good. Inferior goods may refer to the brands of products purchased, item purchased, or instance of how purchase occurs. Initial example is taking a bus versus driving a new car. So inferior goods also oppose luxury goods items, higher quality often sold as a premium that are not needed. So for example nga nitong inferior goods, di ba? Kunyari, dati, nakakapag-take ka ng, kaya mo mag-take ng bus. So ngayon, kaya mo na makabili kasi nga tumaas na yung sahod mo. Ito yung example natin yan. Yan. Pag tumaas yung income, bababa yung demand. So again, ang inferior good, ang normal goods is pag tumaas yung income, tataas din ang demand. So si inferior good, baligtad. Pag tumaas yung income mo, bababa yung demand sa inferior good. Pero bakit? Kasi, for example, ito, yan. For Mr. Henry, when his salary was increased from $2,000 to $5,000, he opted to buy a car. So in this case, yan, so si Mr. Henry daw, tumaas yung salary niya ng from $2,000 to $5,000. So, nung mga nakaipon-ipon na si Mr. Henry, mga for how many months, nakabili siya ng kotse. So ito, tawag natin dito sa kotse, nung kay Mr. Henry, normal goods niya to. Kasi nung tumaas yung income niya, tumaas yung demand niya sa kotse. So, inferior goods, si bike, which is dati gusto niyang bumili na itong bike. Nung tumaas yung income niya, hindi na siya nakabili ng bike. 'Di ba? Nung tumaas income niya, hindi na siya nakabili ng bike, kaya bumaba yung demand niya sa bike. Instead, dito sa normal goods, income niya, tumaas din ang demand niya dito sa normal goods. So here, the next slide is luxury goods. Luxury goods is income elasticity of demand is less than 1. So luxury goods are said to be high income elasticity of demand. In other words, as people become wealthier, they will buy more and more of the luxury goods. Luxury goods are highly sensitive to economic upturns and downturns. Therefore, the state of the economy will often shape consumer spending on luxury goods. So, although luxury items can be different from one person to another, the following items are considered luxury items in an economy. And first example is haute couture. How do you pronounce this? Haute couture or clothing and fur coats, or ito yung mga mamahaling suot mga Louis Vuitton, mga ano pa ba? Mga Balenciaga, mga clothing and fur coats. So syempre, kung itong mga to, sino ba may mga alaga sa ating hayop, 'di ba? Itong fur coats parang ano na lang naman siya, luxury na nating matatawag 'yan which is pwede naman nating alagaan yung mga pets natin ng walang coats or damit, 'di ba? So accessories such as jewelry and high-end watches, luggages, a high-end automobile such as sports car, mga Ferrari, mga Ducati kung sa motor, 'di ba? A yacht and wine, home and state. So, si luxury good is pag tumaas si income, tataas si demand. So, same siya as normal goods. Pag tumaas si income, tataas yung demand. Here is the example of luxury goods. Yan, iPhone. So, paano natin nasabing ano siya? Luxury good siya. So, here's the disclaimer kanina na binasa natin. Although luxury items can be different from one person to another, so either sa iba siguro hindi to luxury, pero sa karamihan sa atin dito ngayon is luxury nating matatawag to, 'di ba? Lalo na yung mga iPhone 10, iPhone 11 pataas na, 'di ba? Medyo pricey na talaga siya. So luxury nating matatawag 'yan. So here, and the next slide is cross elasticity of demand, or XED. Cross is X here. The cross elasticity of demand is an economic concept that measures the responsiveness in the quantity demanded of one good when the price for another good changes, also called cross price elasticity of demand. This measurement is calculated by taking the percentage change in the quantity demanded of one good and dividing it by the percentage change in the price of other good. So cross elasticity of demand. Here's the three types of cross elasticity of demand. The first one is substitute goods. Ganito yung graph niya. The second one is complementary goods. And the third one is unrelated goods. Yan. So hindi na tayo masyadong mag-more on math. Actually, marami talagang more on rito, math equations and formulas. Kaso masyadong malalim na kasi siya. Kung tatalakayin natin siya dito sa elasticity, yung concept na lang yung aaralin natin. So here, the substitute goods, complementary goods, and the unrelated goods. First, we go to substitute goods. Substitute goods is XED, or cross elasticity of demand, is more than 0. So substitute goods is presents the consumers with alternative choices. If the price of one good increases, then the demand for the substitute is likely to rise. Therefore, the substitute have a positive cross elasticity of demand. So ito yung mga example. Butter and margarine, physical books and ebooks, sandals and flip-flops, tuna and salmon, minivans and SUV or sports utility vehicle, earrings and necklace, eyeglasses and contact lens, etc. etc. So paano ulit ang ruling ni substitute goods? Pag daw tumaas yung demand, pag daw tumaas yung price sa isang goods, yung substitute goods have the positive cross elasticity of demand. Paano yun? For example, ito, si butter at si margarine. Gamitin natin itong first sample. So pag tumaas ang price ni butter, yan, ang mangyayari, bababa ang demand. So, di ba, law of supply and demand yan eh. Pag tumaas si price ni butter, bababa ang demand. So, ano mangyayari kaya sa tingin nyo sa margarine? Yan, tataas ang demand ni margarine kasi ito yung magiging substitute natin sa butter. So, alam naman natin karamihan na mas mahal ang butter sa margarine, 'di ba? So, itong margarine kasi parang sabi natin pangmasa na product kumpara dito sa butter. So, pag tumaas ang price ni butter, bababa ang demand niya. Therefore, magkakaroon ng positive result ng demand kay margarine. Ito magiging substitute niya. So, for example, ito, pwede ka na magtimpla na lang sa bahay ng kape instead na lumabas ka pa sa may Starbucks or some coffee shop, or here sa fast food, pwede ka na mag-McDo na lang instead of Burger King, na alam naman natin pagdating sa burgers, medyo mas pricey ang Burger King kumpara sa McDo, something like that. So we're going to second types of goods and cross elasticity of demand is the complementary goods. Complementary goods is cross elasticity of demand is less than 0. So complementary goods are goods or services that are typically used together. For example, keyboard and computers, tennis balls and rackets, and milk and cookies, When the price of a certain goods decreases, the demand for its complementary good will increase. So example of the complementary goods includes hot dogs and hot dog buns, chips and salsa, smartphone and protective cases, printer and ink cartridges, milk and cereal, laptops and laptop cases. So here, the another example is CD, saka yung DVD or CD player natin. So, paano natin magagamit si CD nang walang DVD player? At the same time, paano natin magagamit si DVD player nang wala namang CD? So, ganun siya tumatakbo. Complementary sila. Ito yung goods na kailangan nating gamitin together. Yan. So, another example is racket versus balls. Itong example sa atin yan. Tennis rackets and balls. Pag bumaba ang price ni racket, ano mangyayari sa demand niya? So, tataas. Yes, tataas ang demand ni rackets. So, since complementary sila, pag tumaas ang price, ang demand ni rackets, mangyayari sa balls is tataas din ang demands niya. So, same kasi sila. Hindi mo sila pwede gamitin ng balls lang or rackets lang. Kailangan gamitin mo silang parehas. So, pag bumaba ang price ni rackets, tataas ang demand ni rackets, tataas din ang demand ni balls. On reversely, pag tumaas naman ang price ni rackets or bababa ang demand ni demand ni rackets and bababa rin ang demand ni balls. And here, the third types of cross elasticity of demand is unrelated goods. Excuse. So unrelated goods or cross elasticity of demand is equals to 0. Unrelated goods, if there is no relationship between the goods, then an increase in the price of one good will not affect demand for the other products. As such, unrelated products have the zero cross elasticity. For example, the effect of changes in taxi fares on the market demand for milk. So example of unrelated goods include butter and golf ball, potatoes and phones, bananas and wristwatch, shoes and TV, eyeglass and wallet, spoon and pencil. So sa mga example pa lang, alam na natin from the word itself, unrelated. So unrelated sila. So here's the example, taxi fare and milk. Here, taxi fare and milk. Pag tumaas ang price ng taxi fare, ano mangyayari sa demand niya? So bababa kasi pwede naman tayo mag-jeep na lang or mag-bus, 'di ba? So ano magiging epekto niya kay milk? Wala. So yan, wala siyang epekto. Zero siya, zero cross elasticity. Kasi nga unrelated sila. So kahit bali-baligtarin mo yan, kung tumaas man yan or bumaba man yan, kung tumaas man demand nito or bumaba, walang epekto yan sa demand ni milk on sa price ni milk. So because unrelated silang dalawa. So cross elasticity of supply or XES. So kanina tinalakay natin yung cross elasticity of demand. Yan. Ito definition niya is in contrast to change in demand of two goods in response to price. The cross elasticity of supply measures the proportional change in the quantity supplied or produced in relation to change in the price of good. So, gusto kong i-highlights dito, ito yung pinaka-definition lang niya. Cross elasticity of supply is in contrast to change in demand. So, kung yung kanina, yung XED natin, yung, which is yung cross elasticity of demand natin, is pataas. So, ito, ang XES natin, always pababa lang yan. So, yun lang natin, lagi natin tatandaan na in contrast lang lagi siya sa demand. Ganun yung law of supply and demand kasi natin, di ba? So, itong cross elasticity of supply natin, ano lang din siya, naka-law of supply and demand din siya dun sa cross elasticity of demand natin or yung XED. So, kabaligtaran lang siya lagi ni XED, itong XES. Kung pataas si XED, pababa si XES. Kung pababa si XED, pataas si XES. Okay? So here, the next slide is advertising elasticity of demand. Advertising elasticity of demand, or AED, measures advertising expenditures impact on generating new sales for the company. Companies want a positive AED because it indicates advertising effort resulted in an increased demand for their goods and services. So the major types of degrees of advertisement elasticity of demand can be briefly explained below. The first one is relatively elastic demand. The second one is unitary elastic demand. The third one is relatively inelastic demand. So additional note is AED may not be the most accurate predictor of advertising's impact on sales. So hindi siya masyadong reliable kung hahanapin natin yung advertising's impact on sales. Itong AED, hindi siya masyadong reliable kasi it does not consider other factors that affect demand, such as change in consumers' taste and spending habits. So here, we're here in the last part of report, which is short run versus long run of elasticity. The term short run and long run in economics do not simply refer to periods of time, but rather the flexibility and adaptability periods in production capabilities. In economics, the short run is a period in which at least one factor of production is fixed. This could be a capital such as machinery, factory buildings, etc. As such, the ability to increase production in response to a price increase is limited, making the supply relatively inelastic. Conversely, in the long run, all factors of productions are variable. This means firms can respond to change in demand by increasing or decreasing production capacity, making supply relatively more elastic. So, for example, for instance, consider an apple farmer. If the price of apple increases, the farmer cannot immediately grow more apples. He or she is constrained by the fact that apple trees take time to mature. Hence, in the short run, the farmer's supply of apple would be inelastic. However, over the long period, the farmer can plant more apple trees. Thus, the supply of apple becomes more elastic. So, here's the definition of elasticity of demand in short run. In short run, the demand is likely to be more inelastic. So low is equal to less than 1. If people are used to buying a good, then when the price goes up, they will tend to keep buying it out of habit. However, when they realize the price rise is permanent, they will expend more energy and time on looking for alternatives. Therefore, over time, people are more likely to find alternatives and demand will fall more. So in the long run naman ng elasticity of demand is if the price of a good is expensive for considerable time periods, consumers looking to save money will start trying to find alternatives. And if the good takes a high percentage of disposable income, they make they may make large changes to their lifestyle. For example, if the electricity increases in price, people will keep using electricity to heat their food. However, in the long term, the high price of electricity may encourage people to buy a gas cooker or microwave. So here. And example natin sa short run and long run is petrol. Yan. If the price of oil increases, people with petrol cars will still buy petrol. However, over time, people may increasingly start to buy cars which use alternative energy sources such as natural gas, hydrogen, or solar panels. So here makita natin siya, demand short term is medyo naka horizontally pa siya, 'di ba? But in long run, pa-elastic siya ng pa-elastic kasi nga naiisip na ng mga tao ng karamihan na habang tumatagal na gumagawa sila ng mga alternative ways or energy sources para ma-eliminate nila or maiwasan nila tong petrol kasi nga pataas ng pataas yung halaga eh. So meron mga gumagamit ng natural gases, hydrogen or solar panels, but it will take time. Ito yung pinaka consequences niya, but it will take time to make the switch. Therefore, demand will be more elastic over time. So as I've said earlier, yung demand ay lagiging elastic habang tumatagal. So as you can see here in the illustration, ito yung short-term demand. Habang tumatagal, long-term, pa-elastic siya ng pa-elastic. Yan. And the next slide is elasticity of supply in short run. So short run supply is the response of the quantity supplied to a price change when some of the possible adjustment to production can be made. Most goods have an inelastic short run supply. Firms can make some adjustment to increase output in the short run, such as workers, their labor force over time, hiring and training additional workers, and buying additional equipment. But there are other adjustments producers can't make in the short run, such as building factories and planting forests. So sa long run naman is long run supply is the response of the quantity supplied to a price change when all the technologies possible way of adjusting production have been exploited. For most goods and services, long-run supply is elastic and perhaps perfectly elastic. So here, ang illustration naman ng short run and long run ng supply naman sa supply tayo. So para lang din siyang sa demand. Ito yung short run niya. Tapos habang tumatagal, nagiging more elastic rin siya yung curve niya. So supply is normally more elastic in the long run. As you can see here, parang pahiga na ng pahiga yung sa graph niya kasi nga it is generally assumed that in the long run all factors of production can be utilized to increase supply, whereas in the short run only labor can be increased. So kaya habang tumatagal talaga pataas ng pataas ang elasticity ni supply kasi lahat ng habang tumatagal magagamit na natin lahat ng factors para sa production ma-utilize na natin lahat. So habang tumatagal si supply pa-elastic din ng pa-elastic gaya ni demand. So yes, I think that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for listening to my report entitled Elasticity, and thank you, Doc Rico, for giving me this opportunity to report. And thank you so much, class, and have a great and safe day, everyone. Okay, bye.